Hey, this is the Core, your entertainment techie here. All right, with a new video. Since we're approaching Black Friday pretty soon, I figured why not create this buyer's guide for those who are looking to purchase a new media player but are just not sure what to get. Okay, so the format's just going to be a little bit different this time. So let me know how you feel about this new format in the description box below. Okay, I'd really appreciate some feedback. Okay. So I'm only going to get into detail about media players I've had the experience with. I may recommend some that are in the same family, but I'm not going to go too far from that, okay? The reason why I personally chose these players in particular is because of two things: accessibility and an operating system that is meant for TV, okay? That latter one is important because not all media players use the operating system that's meant for TV, which means they miss out on a lot of the bells and whistles that are provided by certain apps like Netflix and Hulu. Okay, I won't cover like every feature, Alexa or Google Home, those type of features, as I don't have that much experience with those options, and it's not what I personally look for in a media player. So we are first going with the budget media players. Budget media players usually cost around $30 to $60, and they do a wonderful job for streaming all the popular apps, but they do lack a few things which I'm going to explain. All right. The main thing that really hurts most budget media players is this power. Okay, if you have a media server or into gaming like I am, these are not the kind of devices you want to have in your main entertainment space. Your bedroom, your kitchen area, maybe a work area. Those are the spaces that I recommend for a budget media player. Okay. That being said, if you are just looking for something that can stream the popular apps like Netflix, Hulu, and even live TV apps, then a budget media player is all that you're going to need. Okay. Most can handle 4K content fine, it can do HDR, and it can even do slightly decent gaming. Okay. So if you have a nice home theater receiver that you want to take advantage of, it will work for basic streaming, but not really for personal media. Okay. Most only support Dolby Digital formats, and while they can play back DTS formats, it will not pick up on your receiver. And so there's not going to be any surround sound unless you force it through an available option that's on the receiver itself. Okay. Now, the two that I'm recommending right now are the Fire Stick TV 4K Max and the Chromecast with Google TV. So let's start with the Fire Stick TV 4K Max. I think the three important things that it has going for it right now is the new Wi-Fi 6 support, the free web browser, and the interface. If you're not familiar with Wi-Fi 6 support, it has faster speeds on the 5 gigahertz frequency, and it manages the transfer of the data better than previous standards. Okay. The only big caveat with Wi-Fi 6 is it requires you to have a router that supports it, which means if you don't have one in the house, you have to buy one to benefit from that feature. You might be wondering why I included the free web browser in the three things. We'll get to that when we arrive at the other budget media player. Okay. Lastly, I just like the way that the Amazon does their interface with the Fire OS. I've always felt like it was just easier to navigate than the Android TV OS, and that's just my opinion. Now, if Wi-Fi 6 support is not all that important to you, you may want to consider saving a few bucks by going with the Fire Stick TV 4K. It can pretty much do what the new Fire Stick can do, and we're really just talking about minor improvements on this year's model. Next, we have the Chromecast with Google TV. I personally feel like there are two things that edge out the Chromecast as the better budget media player. First and foremost is the accessibility. The Google Play Store just supports far more apps than the Amazon Store does. It's definitely not difficult to get apps that aren't supported on Amazon Store, but why go through the hassle if you don't have to, is just how I feel about it. Okay. Gaming is also slightly better on the Chromecast as it does have that faster CPU, which tends to do much better with emulation, especially. And once again, it just has more accessibility as most emulators are directly available on that app store. Okay. Now, one thing that the Fire Stick definitely has a one up on the Chromecast with, and I told you that we're going to get to this, it's the internet browser. All right. This perplexes me a bit. It's called the Chromecast, and yet there's no Chrome web browser. So that means that you have to get a third party web browser, and the best one that they have is charging an annual or monthly fee for extended and daily usage. So if having a web browser is important, you should just keep this in mind. All right. So those are the budget media players in a nutshell. All right. Now let's get to the mid-tier and high-end media players. Okay. These media players range from $100 to $500. These are the media players that you kind of want to have in your main entertainment space, taking advantage of a home theater setup. So the first one on the list is the Fire TV Cube second generation. The biggest reason you want to jump from a Fire Stick to this is for the personal media, in my opinion. There is still one codec that the Fire Stick nor the Chromecast can handle, and that is the VC1 codec. Now, I'll be honest in saying you won't come across this codec a lot when it comes to ripping Blu-ray movies, but if you don't want the hassle of converting those movies to the H.264 codec or getting a computer that can handle transcoding, then this is going to be right up your alley. Now, there is a caveat with this media player. Okay, it does not support DTS. So once again, if you have a receiver and you want that surround sound, this is not going to be the device that you want to buy. Okay. With that being said, this is where our next device comes in, the Nvidia Shield Pro. The Nvidia Shield Pro can pretty much do it all. It handles all the video formats. It can play back all DTS and Dolby Digital surround sound formats. You can even do some decent gaming on it. And on top of that, you also have an AI upscaler. Okay. Their AI upscaler has the ability to upscale a 720p or a 1080p image to a 4K image. If you want personal media playback, if you want decent gaming, then look no further than the Nvidia Shield Pro. Now, there is a cheaper model for $50 less, but the caveat is that it only supports 32-bit apps, which affects some portions of emulation, in particular the Dolphin emulator, which requires the 64-bit, if I'm correct. Okay. Now, if that does not satiate your need for gaming, then look no further than our final media player on the list, the Xbox Series S. I'm unfortunately no longer in possession of this device, but I did get the opportunity to test it, and it pretty much covers all bases, okay? I've been doing some research on the latest update with Kodi, as I did have an issue with the H.265 at that time, and it seems that it's been fixed. So that means that all the popular video codecs are now supported. So in terms of surround sound, I know that Dolby Digital, True HD, and Atmos are supported. DTS is supported, but there's no confirmation on if other codecs in that family are available. Not only will you get access to the current generation of video games, you can emulate games on here as well, and the hardware is powerful enough to do enhancements like upscaling and overclocking. Xbox also has backwards compatibility. They have the Game Pass, so if you want an all-around media player and you want to pinch some pennies, this is definitely the way to go in my opinion. There is, of course, the bigger brother, the Series X, which is really going to be good for this current generation of games as we get into the latter parts of the era. But for what the S can do, I'm impressed, and I do think it's worth it if you don't want to go higher than $300. Okay. So that's it, folks. Hopefully this quick guide is going to help you make an informed decision for the holiday season. I'll certainly be in the comment section if there's anything I can answer for you. I'm also putting some links in the description for all the items I've mentioned today. I do also want to mention that I do have reviews for most of the devices, with the exception of the Google Chrome, which, full disclosure, I started but failed to complete because, like the S, it's no longer in my possession. So I should probably stop giving things away. For now, this is your entertainment techie, and I'm signing out.